Breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. The Saints have their man, and he was right in their own backyard. Dennis Allen reportedly being elevated from defensive coordinator to head coach after Sean Payton steps down in New Orleans. Allen has been a head coach before for 2+ seasons with the Oakland Raiders, had an 8-28 record. Chris Hassell joined by Pete Prisco here in Los Angeles, and the big news of the day continues to be coaching. The final vacancy now is no longer going to be vacant for long, with ESPN reporting that they have told Dennis Allen he's going to be the guy. What do you think of the Saints going in that direction?
Well, I think there's continuity there. I mean, he's been around. The players know him. The defensive players love him. And so it makes some sense. I mean, you looked at their pool of guys that they interviewed, and there were some offensive guys in there. But I think, continuity and understanding what he brings, I think, was important to the Saints and important to some of those players. Look, you look at the Saints roster. They're in cap hell right now. They have a terrible cap situation. They have no quarterback right now. And they have guys who are getting older on that team. So it's going to be a challenge for whoever took over, but I think it's something to do with continuity and keeping Dennis Allen in the building.
Sean Payton mentioned Dennis Allen at his quote-unquote retirement speech. How much do you think he had to do with Allen succeeding him?
I'm sure they asked Sean, and Sean probably put in a good word for him. But, Aaron Glenn interviewed, and he did a nice job. He had worked in that building before as well, and you heard good things from his interview. So I think it was a tough decision for the Saints. But Dennis Allen, and people will point to his record when he was at the Raiders, that was a bad football team. This right now isn't a great team either. But so it's going to be a challenge just like it was when he was with the Raiders. I think this is a tough job right now because of the cap situation and because of the quarterback situation.
How do you sell him, though, to Saints fans who are going to say, hey, he's been a head coach before, and not only did he not win, he lost big?
Well, his players, and a lot of them are veteran players, and I've talked about that. You look at, guys like Cam Jordan and DeMario Davis, they swear by him. And so he had them playing well. I mean, look, they went to Tampa and shut out the Bucs. 0.
Yeah.
I mean, that tells you what they thought about their coach. So, again, I go back to what I always say about these head coaches. Can you handle the room? Can you handle everything? And you got to be able to handle the offensive side of the ball. Now, that's the question. Who's going to be the quarterback? There are two questions. Who's going to be the coordinator and who's going to be the quarterback? Because Taysom Hill is not the quarterback. There's no way that guy can play quarterback for them on a week-by-week basis.
If he was going to, he would have done it this season.
Of course he would have. And so they got to find a quarterback. Maybe it's Jameis Winston. Maybe he comes back. But who's the offensive coordinator? And Pete Carmichael's been there for a long time. He was there under Sean Payton. Most people don't know that. He was the offensive coordinator, and he's still around. So maybe they could bring him back to be the offensive coordinator.
Winston, a free agent. Is that what makes the most sense to you with, it's a pretty light NFL draft? There isn't really a guy that you could see the Saints trading up for and saying, okay, that's going to be our franchise quarterback, the guy who really succeeds, Drew Brees.
Well, I could see the Saints bring back Jameis Winston, but also drafting a rookie quarterback. I really could. At some point, you have to get that guy. I don't think they think, or most people would think, that Jameis Winston is that guy for the long term. So I think you have to find the long-term guy. So why not do both? Maybe you bring Jameis Winston back, you keep Taysom Hill around for the gimmick stuff, and then you draft a young quarterback. They do have Ian Book. He looked terrible when he played, but he was probably thrown to the Wolves too early, I mean.
Jonathan Jones, our senior NFL insider, is downplaying their cap situation. He says that they're going to be able to make a few moves and they'll be able to be fine with the cap. Do you think he's downplaying it too much, or is that something that you should just, look, we're going to fix it, everything will be fine, let's move on? You
can make the cap moves to get under it. You might have to give up some players. You're not going to keep some players. You also have to have the cash. If you're going to take somebody's salary and restructure it and give them bonus money and spread it out over the course of the contract, that means you have to have the money. It's cash over cap. I get it. From the number standpoint, it's easy to do. You can get under anytime you want to. We say that all the time. The cap is a number, sure, but you can get under it anytime you want to if you need to. But for teams that aren't rich, and the Saints don't have a giant building to generate that much money. It's a good stadium, but they don't have these monstrosities like we have here in Los Angeles or in Vegas where they generate a lot of cash flow. The Raiders used to have cash flow problems when they were in Oakland. Well, they don't anymore. And that's why I think it could be problematic for the Saints to do a lot of those contracts. You can do some of them, but you have to come off the hip for cash. And that could be, $55, $60 million in cash. That's hard to come up with.
Dennis Allen is going to be the new head coach of the New Orleans Saints. That means that it is another year where Eric Bieniemy has, interviews. He's a finalist and does not get a job. Some looked at this as, being a Louisiana guy, looks like might be the right place for him. What does that tell you about Bieniemy?
It's just not the right time. And I think it's going to happen for him eventually. It's just right now is not the right time. And again, I go back to what I said earlier. Ryan Poles was in the Chiefs building with him. He got a job as a general manager, and he didn't interview him. Now, I don't know what people say about that, but that's a little bit of a red flag to me. If you're in a building with a guy and everybody's pushing him to be a head coach, why didn't you interview him? And so I think there are some things there that need to be ferreted out and find out why Eric Bieniemy's not getting these jobs. I think ultimately he will. I think he's a good coach, but it just hasn't worked out yet.
How about Byron Leftwich, another guy who, I think you go back a couple weeks, I think many of us would have said he's going to be a head coach somewhere.
I'm a big Byron Leftwich guy. I've known him for a long time. I think he's going to be a great coach in this league. I do not think the Jacksonville situation was the best for him. And I know a lot of the Jaguar fans got mad at me when I say that, but I just don't think it was. He wasn't treated fairly there. They weren't giving him enough. I think the fans really came down hard on him. And Byron may have overplayed his hand. You're a guy who's been a coordinator for a couple years, and you were trying to make a power play reportedly, and I have talked to some people who have heard that may be what it was, that he wanted his own guy in there, Adrian Wilson, and he wanted Trent Baalke out. I respect Byron for that. I really do, because I wouldn't want to work with Trent Baalke either if I was Byron Leftwich. But it didn't play out, because obviously they looked at it and they said, no, we're going to stick with what we want, and we're going to go in another direction.
Going into the day, we had 2 vacancies, Texans and Saints. Both of them going with defensive coordinators that were already on their staff. Lovie Smith for the Texans and now Dennis Allen with the Saints. What does that tell you?
It tells me that they felt comfortable. Look, the Texans aside, you got to push that one aside. You never know what they're doing. They have problems inside their front office. But I think when it comes to the Saints, it just says they wanted continuity. That's what they wanted.
You're the king of the grades. You hand out grades for draft picks right away. Give me a grade for the Saints.
You know what, though? I've gotten to the point where I don't like giving out grades for coaches.
Well, too bad.
Well, you know why?
I asked you to do
You know why? Because you don't know.
Well, because we're going to hold you to it.
No.
If you say D and he goes out and he leads them to the playoffs in his first year, we'll hold you to that.
I think Dennis Allen's a good coach, and I think you're going to find out he's a much better coach than what he showed with the Raiders. I really do. Dennis Allen understands what it takes to win football games. Just got to have players. Again, none of these guys are any good if they don't have players. It's 80% players and 20% coach.
What's the grade?
I'm not giving you a grade.
Oh, come on, Pete. Got to be with this guy all week. What is it? B.
I'll give you a B.
A B for Dennis Allen to the New Orleans Saints. And now all the head coaching vacancies are filled with Lovie Smith earlier today to the Texans and Dennis Allen now to the New Orleans Saints. There you have it. Not official yet, but those are the reports as our coaching carousel, for the most part, comes to a complete stop.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.